Hello everybody, welcome to That's Football. I'm Mark Goldbridge. Arsenal are out of the Carabao Cup, destroyed by Newcastle, 2-0 twice. And I tell you what, that is the story of two games, isn't it? And you have to say, yet again, Arsenal, glaringly obvious that lack of action in another transfer window, basically your bridesmaid FC. Is that what your club is happy with? I've heard Arsenal fans say this. The Cronkies, the owners, are just happy with us qualifying for the Champions League, 80 million in the bank every year. They're not actually willing to go to the next level. And I tell you what, there is something to be said for that, because I remember years ago this being said about Manchester United. The cost of going second to first isn't worth it to owners who want to make money, because the trophy doesn't actually justify the transfer fees in relation to earnings. And that's when a business overarches a football club. Well, I don't know what's going on at Arsenal, but what I do know is over two legs, you haven't scored a goal. And over two legs, Newcastle have scored 4. Now, you can cloud the issue with beating Man City in a one-off. But the reality is, so many times this season, especially in games that really matter, you can't score goals. Havertz is not a striker. He might score you a second goal against West Ham or the third goal against Man City. But in the big games, he's toothless. When Man United played Arsenal in the FA Cup and we had 10 men, I wasn't worried about Havertz. I wasn't worried about the movement or hold-up play or anything like that. And Newcastle weren't worried either today. Too easy to play against. That's an embarrassment for Arsenal to go up there and over two legs not score a goal. It's staring at you and you all know it. Not buying a striker. Now, I want to go back to that, but I also want to say Newcastle were incredible. I don't know how they've managed to lose 2 games in a row at home, because every time I watch Newcastle at home, you get that. You get an amazing atmosphere. You get a team that feeds off it, that never stops running. And they were the better attacking side. They were the more entertaining side as well. They were absolutely fantastic. And they're in another Carabao Cup final. And Eddie Howe and those players deserve massive credit, because when they're on it and they're up for it, they're very, very difficult to deal with. And hopefully they can get over the line this time. I'd love them to win a trophy. I think it'd be fantastic for them. But that's for another day. And Newcastle obviously have their own aspirations of European football through the league as well. I think for Arsenal, that's all they've got now. And they're not going to win the league either. And we were talking about this on the watch-along. You've got a team like Aston Villa, who aren't in the top 4 at the moment, but are in the Champions League. They're not going to win the Champions League, are they? It'd be amazing. It would be great. I'd love it if it happened. But Aston Villa are not going to win the Champions League. And they know they're probably not going to win the Champions League. They'll give it a bloody good go, but they won't probably win it. So if they want to be back in the Champions League, they've got to get in the top 5. And they're not there at the moment. And they certainly want to be getting in the Europa League at least, because they need that money. So what do? They're like, do we go with what we've got? Or do we try and get things working in January? They brought 5 players in. They're trying to get themselves into the Champions League. How is that any different from Arsenal trying to get from second to first? Or Arsenal trying to win the Carabao Cup? Or trying to win the FA Cup? And no, Arsenal have gone, no. Yeah, Saka's out for ages. Yeah, one more injury to a key player and we're screwed. But you know what? Let's risk it. It's sad how some football clubs now run themselves as businesses instead of football clubs. Because if Arsenal were being run like a football club, there is no way you don't bring players in January. You were still in the FA Cup, you were still in the Carabao Cup, still in the Champions obviously still, and still very much in the title race. But they're not going to win the league, because they're going to... This is why people who keep saying Arsenal might win the Champions League, Arsenal might win the league. How many more pieces of evidence do you need that it's not going to happen? Because the reason I said Arsenal won't win the league as far back as October was because I said they'll have more Crystal Palace games, they'll have more Brighton games where they don't win games that they should be winning because they don't have that striker up front. And we've had Everton since then, we've had Man United since then, we've had 2 games against Newcastle since then, and we will have more games like that over the next few weeks. And Liverpool won't. And they won't be able to hunt them down because they won't be a threat. They're too easy to deal with as an attack, Arsenal. And also as well, I mean, made the point on the watch along as well. Gordon Isak and Murphy is better than Saka, Havertz and Martinelli. It is. So, also in the watch-along, I would only put Declan Rice and Odegaard in a Liverpool team. So, you're not actually good enough to win the league, and you're not actually good enough to score goals. And that's a massive problem for Arsenal. I think Arteta did himself a big favour yesterday when he said he was frustrated that they hadn't done anything in the transfer window, because I think that puts the pressure off him and puts it where it should be. Why are they not delivering players? And look, I'm very frustrated about where my club is. You know, we're in big trouble. But that doesn't mean it's any less frustrating for an Arsenal fan. They can't just sit there and go, well, at least we're not Manchester United. Because I look at Arsenal as a Man United fan and I go, yeah, they're in a better position than us, but they're also in a massively frustrating position where they're almost touching being where they need to be, but they've got something stopping them being there. I mean, what football club doesn't get one of the most important pieces to take Arsenal to that next level? It's amazing. And you've got to start calling Arsenal bridesmaid FC now. Always the bridesmaid, never the bride, because they are so close. And I'll say it again. The problem is, it's the arrogance. We've got it at Man United. There's this arrogance with the ownership that they think they can build something strategically over the next few years to take Man United back to the top. But it completely and utterly disrespects every other football club that's already doing it. Like, every year that Man United are not in the Champions League, there are clubs earning £80 million every year with owners and strategies to stay there and get better and better and better. Nobody else is standing still. And that, I would reflect that on Arsenal as well. Arsenal going, oh, we'll get a striker in the summer. Okay, you get a striker in the summer and it's the right striker and he starts scoring goals and you add that striker to your team. But next season, maybe Chelsea are past you. Maybe you're third now. And you get the striker, but it doesn't matter because you're now third best team in the league. You'll always look back on this period and go, that was the time to get the striker. And I think in football, you snooze, you lose. Planning for the future in football is never a good plan. You've got to play for the now. And putting things off when you are that... I mean, look, Arsenal will always be the team for the last 2 seasons that if they had a striker, they might have won the league. I think they would have won the league. I think they would have won it last year, and I think they would have won it this year. But they didn't buy one. So that's on Arsenal Football Club. They've only got themselves to blame. As for Newcastle, look, they're sort of in that race themselves for top 4, and maybe they can do it. I thought they were fantastic today. And it's surprising that they've lost 2 at home to Bournemouth and Fulham, but that's the competitive nature of the Premier League. We must not disrespect those teams. But I think Newcastle have got a very exciting back end to the season. No European football, but they've got a Carabao Cup final. They're still in the FA Cup, and they're still very much in the race for top 5. So Newcastle deserve all the plaudits. To go over 2 games and win 4-0 is absolutely fantastic. So look, final word, Newcastle were brilliant. Arsenal were predictable, and they've only got themselves to blame. Thanks everyone for watching. Take care. Get your comments in below, and I'll speak to you on the next one.